Okay, Dr. Sam Gipp, in your opinion, would you describe to me the difference between the new and old IFB?
Well, what's called the old IFB is basically independent, they call it independent fundamental Baptist churches. They believe the same as far as Baptist doctrine. Unlike something like the Southern Baptist or American Baptist, it's not a denomination. They are independent, which means the highest authority is the pastor of each local church. Each church makes its own decision. If somebody doesn't like it, well, it's, you make yours and they'll make theirs. The new IFB, the I doesn't belong there. I call it the new FIB, as a new fib, because it's a lie. There's no independence whatsoever. It is a cult. The puppet pastors are more afraid of offending Stephen Anderson than they are of offending God, and he runs it. I mean, they have to please him. I don't think any of them would have the courage to have a speaker in that he disapproved of, and so it's not independent at all. They also are mid-tribulation rapture, which is wrong, but that just means they'll be surprised when they miss the whole thing. But they're very much into the replacement theology, which is they think they're a replacement for Israel. They negate every reference in the Old Testament that God is going to restore Israel. They just reject the Bible basically, and they really hate the Jews. You talk to them, they hate the Jews. I've never found anybody that took this Reformation or this Restoration theology. I never met anybody that ever said, I think I'm the replacement for the Jews, but I hope the people over there in Palestine, the people call themselves Jews now, get saved. It's like they almost take a Nazi-type stand. Enough bad can't happen to them. Anderson himself walks around with a shirt with a Palestinian flag saying Free Palestine. And there's a real deep-seated hatred for God's people, the Jews.
Okay, you reported to me earlier that you had a infiltrator at a church that you speak at there, and that you had that you called the infiltrator / agent of Anderson out, and that 16 people showed up at your house. Well, luckily you weren't home, and your wife didn't hear them knocking because she was out washing windows or whatever. You want to go ahead and tell that in your own story?
Yeah, what Anderson does, and I mean, he literally instructs these people, join a church and start passing out my DVDs. He is very open. There's no restrictions on these people. I call them the Antifa of Christianity. It used to be to disagree with somebody politically, that they wouldn't be at your door, like these folks that showed up at this Tucker Carlson's door. Same thing. Anderson's people think they have every right to go into a church and call the members and get everybody they can to follow them. And so there was a fellow in this church here, a young man, and I kind of called him out, and he took off. But one day, we are the only house on this street, and we are on church property. So it's not like you would be in the neighborhood door knocking here. And I was out, I'd been doing some work around the church, just painting some stuff. My wife was out in the backyard washing the windows. So these guys came to the door. My wife didn't hear them, and I wasn't here. But they knocked at the door. There were about 16 of them. They were Anderson people because he's starting a church. He's got one of his Mackies starting a church here in the Boise area. But they weren't here. They knew that I lived here. So it wouldn't be a case of, let's see if this guy wants to come to our church. It was basically, I would say harassment with these guys. It's more intimidation. It's more bullying. But our groundskeeper was just pulling off the property, and he saw him, this herd, this gang of people, 7 cars, and he pulled over, asked them what they wanted, and they got a little sharp with him, a little belligerent, But then they left because they didn't know what to do. So, yeah, they showed up at my door. I'll guarantee you, they had one guy knocking at the door, and the other one had his phone in his hand, ready to record a video, because these people have no power of God whatsoever. God did not make Stephen Anderson. The internet did. and everything he does is internet. Everything they do is internet. So they like a gotcha moment. They like to call you up and say, oh, look, he melted down, or they like to catch you on a video, because it's the only thing they have. So I'll guarantee you there was a guy there ready to take my video and have me blowing up where you do my front door, that kind of thing. And the Lord is very gracious. He just didn't have me there. I just wasn't there, because I probably would have blown up. They couldn't say they were visiting. No one goes door knocking with 16 people. It just really does that. It was plainly intimidation.
What exactly did the gentleman do? Was he passing out Anderson material at the church?
They left. They did not go onto the church property because our groundskeeper kind of intercepted them. But they left some stuff here for one of the Anderson material that it was about this new church that's starting in the Boise area, and that's what they left. But they do go into churches and pass out literature. I have a pastor in Ohio. They came in to his morning service and passed out invitations to a movie premiere that night at 5 o'clock. Incidentally, after the movie, and of course it was going to be Anderson's newest video, after the movie we were going to have an evening service. So they're in a church inviting people to a different church. And then up in Canada, a young family showed up, and they all look good. I mean, they have their Bibles. They claim to be King James Bible believers. Anderson is not. He used the Greek. He's not a Bible believer, but he pretends to be so he can get them on his side. And this couple came in, and the pastor sat him down and said, look, I don't want anything of Stephen Anderson in my church. You're not welcome here. So that night, just kind of showed this pastor who's boss. The family didn't come back, but they sent 2 other Anderson thugs in, and they walked into the church in the evening service and started passing out Anderson DVDs. Now, I don't think Stephen Anderson told them specifically to do that, but Anderson has given all of his people, they all feel they have the right to walk into a church, cause as much grief as they can, steal as many members as they can, subvert the church. There's no boundaries to these people. Just like I wouldn't even say that Anderson told these people to knock at my door, but his spirit did. His spirit is one of hatred and confrontation, and so that they follow their leader.
Okay, going back to the man that was starting the church up in the Boise area, and they left Anderson material at your door, but you actually called him out at a church service or something?
No. The fella, he's not the guy that was in our church here. Is not the guy that's starting the church.
Okay.
Right, and I don't follow these people. I don't follow Anderson on the internet or anything like that. He's got people that follow me, to keep track of me, I guess. But I don't know the name of the pastor that's starting his church. I don't know their location. But there was information that they were having a church begin in the Boise area, and that's what they were supposedly visiting for.
Okay. You also relate to me that you were traveling abroad and here in the States, and you're saying that Stephen Anderson's people were calling around to places that you were visiting, you were speaking at. What was related from Stephen Anderson's organization, what was reported to you by these pastors of what they were calling around saying?
Well, again, Anderson has no power of God. His whole power base is the internet. And brother, I'm an evangelist. The name of my ministry is a friend to churches. Yes. So I have a lot of grace with people, but when you hurt a church, I am your adversary. And Anderson hurts churches, and so I have been exposing him. So he makes up charges of blasphemy. He says I say that Jesus wasn't Christ. I've never said that. I say he wasn't the Messiah. No, I say that he was sent to the Jews as the Messiah, not to the Gentiles. But he doesn't know the Bible to find the difference. So everything he does, he has to trump up a false charge so that he can be the good guy and anybody that he hates is the bad guy. And he had a guy by the name of Tyler Baker, who was his right-hand man. And Baker got my itinerary, it's posted on the internet, and started calling all my churches saying, you need to cancel Sam Gipp. He's a heretic. Obviously, since they listen to God instead of Stephen Anderson, the fact is, brother, not only did no one cancel, I've gotten about a half a dozen new meetings. I have people call and say, Anderson doesn't like you. I want you in my church. In fact, I told you this. This is the funniest thing. I was preaching in Alabama, and there was a missionary I know, missionary to Scotland. And this missionary to Scotland says, I got to tell you this, I just got a call before I left Scotland from a lawyer, a 37-year-old lawyer who'd been following Anderson on the internet and heard Anderson bad-mouthing a guy named Sam Gipp. So he went on Sam Gipp's site and got saved.
Amen.
So I tell people, I said, Stephen Anderson and I are soul-winning partners now. But anyway, he called even all the way to Korea. I had a meeting in Korea either last year or the year before, and Anderson's people actually called Korea, telling these people, you need to cancel Sam Gipp. And what they do, and I'll give you an example. There was a pastor in Maryland that was having a meeting. Anderson zombie called him up, told him to cancel Sam Gipp, he's a heretic. He said, if we're independent, who has the right to do that? And so then not only did this guy gave up, and Anderson himself called this guy. And he said, cancel Sam Gipp. He goes, no. And he said, cancel Sam Gipp or you'll be sorry. Now that's a threat. Mm-hmm. But what they do, and this is the shallowness of our generation, even on people who are not Anderson people, they're so enamored with the internet. Anderson has his people go online to a church's website if they don't obey him. If the pastor doesn't submit to Anderson, he has his I call them cyber thugs. They go on their website and say, this church is terrible. Mind you, these people have never been in the state, let alone in that church. So they outright lie. They go on, this church is terrible. It's bad. You shouldn't go here. It's a bunch of heretics. I was there. It was all bad. And for about 2 weeks, they get a bad rating, I guess, on their webpage, and that just terrifies some people. And that's what they did to our home church here. That's what they did this guy in Maryland. And after a month, it's gone. It's gone. But in fact, I have a YouTube channel. If you just go on YouTube, search Sam Gipp channel, and if you go to the comments, Anderson's people go in there, and brother, they use language that I used before I trusted Christ. And it's as foul as it can possibly be. And they tell me I have every 4-letter word in the book. While they tell me I'm going down, Anderson has revoked my salvation. He thinks he has the power to make people unsaved. And they're just thugs. In fact, the Tyler Baker, the guy that was calling all these churches at Anderson's request, got sideways with Anderson, and Anderson has since taken his salvation away. So the guy thinks he's God, I think.
Okay, that's and we have permission to use your any quotes on here and your picture that you texted me, correct?
Yep.
Okay.